side. Every twist and turn, I leave worries behind. With precision, I along the ride. Beaches beneath the stars, my passion.
Hello everybody, David from Flash by Vcyclenut here on this really beautiful early November day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and then getting ready to test the next system on my 2025 MT07, which is going to be the Arrow full system. So they make, if you go on their website, they make several different configurations for the MT07, but it's all the same header. It just, what differs is the mid-pipe type and the exhaust canister type, which isn't going to affect performance. They're all going to perform the same. System I ordered, actually I ordered it several months ago, is before they had a 25 specific system out. So this was one of the earlier, it was for the 21 through 23, I believe. And I did have to modify the bracket a little bit. It had a bottom edge that stuck out that had a couple of tack welds on it that I was able to just cut off, and then everything fit perfect. But they do make ones specifically for the 25, just not in this configuration. So pick it as you would like, and if you're okay with just taking a durable cutoff wheel and cutting off a couple welds, then the older systems, and it fit perfectly once I did that. I think it looks really good. It was fairly light, like 10 pounds or so, and yeah, it sounds really good. Let's give it a good listen. Then I'll get all my road tuning done, my dyno tuning. Such a good sounding bike. The pipe did come with a very easy to remove DB killer with just a snap ring, which I really liked. I was able to take it in and out, and I'll show you the readings with both of it in and out. I really enjoyed this Arrow system on my MT07. I'm sorry that I didn't take pictures of how I modified the bracket, but it's really easy. If you just looked at it from the edge, there's kind of an L-shaped a bottom enforcement little bend on it that was just tack welded on in a couple spots, and I just cut that off and then hit it with some flat black paint so that nothing would rust, and then everything bolted up perfectly if you wanted to use this configuration. It did make some of the best power that I've seen on my MT07 with the stock airbox. I really just enjoyed how it sounded. The throttle response was noticeably better than the last exhaust I had on the bike, which was the Ixel. And just, I think, a good looking system. You know, when the curly Q system, or whatever you want to call it, pigtail, or the curly Q, the loop-de-loop, was kind of originated with Akrapovic back when in 15 and there's always speculation online that it helps mid-range and this and that, and how it's this much better lengthen the mid-pipe. And what I found is that there's definitely a minimum mid-pipe length that's needed with most motors. And as long as you're over that, though, adding extra mid-pipe length doesn't seem to help. On this, I will do a direct comparison to the Arrow compared to when I tested the Akrapovic, and the Arrow just is beating it everywhere. So it's not just the curly Q, it's the header configuration where the collector is and all that good stuff. So let's get into the dyno runs. So this is where my MT07 was all stock. If you watch my videos, you've seen this lots of times. And these runs show, again, the 100% stock bike with the stock bike and just my flash. A dyno run, you got nice gains across the rev range, but I can't really quantify the part throttle gains, how much smoother the bike is. My power mode 1, which is just amazingly improvement on the bike. It's just really, you still can be smooth with it. And I think most of my feedback that after I sending out my surveys after flashing several dozen of these is most people have really liked Power Mode 1. A couple people have still thought Power Mode 1 was a bit aggressive for their taste, but then they went to Power Mode 2 and were very happy with that. And then you still even have Power Mode 3, which is even smoother if you really, really wanted precise throttle control. So really tons of benefits with the Flash, not just full throttle performance that I can show here, but as you can see, you do get full throttle performance gains with the Flash without touching any parts. In these two runs, we're comparing the red line, which was my MT07 all stock with just my Flash, versus it all mapped out and the Arrow full exhaust installed. And you can see we don't have any losses anywhere, and really got a nice bump up here on the top. So right around 5,500 RPMs, and from 9,000 on up or 8,500 on up, really nice gains with the system. Really, like I said earlier, was very happy with how this mapped out and how it feels on the road and how it sounds. So let's take a look at where we are now compared to where we started. Actually, let's first take a look at how much of a difference a dB killer made, because that was a bit disappointing. And as you saw in the dB readings that I gave, it made a nice little difference in idle. It went from 63 decibels to 56 decibels. And these are, I'm measuring them from farther back than I used to, so that the readings will be more appropriate or more useful. It used to just be everything would pop over 130 decibels on the run. So I moved it back about 20 feet so that you could compare system to system. So this will be the new position to test them at moving forward. And then you saw on the run, it only went from 111 decibels to 109. So not really super effective at decreasing the overall loudness. And it's a pretty significant horsepower loss. It's odd that right in here, it didn't change, but a couple horsepower on top, a couple horsepower through the middle. If you wanted to take it in and out, you could. The air fuel didn't change too much on it. But for me, I'm going to run it without it in, because it just sounds so nice. And I really, really like the sound of it. But it would be, if your thing is a much quieter exhaust, I would get an exhaust with a larger canister to start. I don't think it's ever a good solution to pick an exhaust that you need to put a dB killer in to make it acceptable loudness for you, because you're always going to be hurting the power. So that's my 2 cents anyway. So, but there's what you're losing if you put the dB killer in. So these runs show where my MT07 was all stock to where it is now with the Arrow full exhaust on my Flash. And far too often people just look at these peak numbers and that really doesn't tell the whole picture, or it just tells one little snapshot. What was the old peak versus the new peak? And you can see they're close in this bike, but they're still not even at the same RCM or same RPM. So, not really the best way to compare. You really should be looking at area under curve. I did give a little cursor here at the old, where this was obviously this is the old peak. Now the new peak is here. So I did put the cursor there so we can look at the difference at the new peak. And you can see that it just holds on to power so much better. But there is no place where we're below it. And we'll take a look at the torque here, right where they cross at 5250 in a second. But these are very, very, very nice gains for just a Flash and a pipe change. If you've watched my other videos, as we know, it's the airbox is another huge restriction, which now I'm going to take the stock airbox off again and go through and tune all of the last exhausts that I have done the mapping for with the stock airbox. I'll be doing them with the TST intake and the Horde intake, and we'll see bigger numbers, obviously, with that. And these will all jump right up. But if you didn't want to go through that expense or the hassle, because the pain in the ass to take the stock airbox out, you can get some nice gains with a pipe and just a Flash. So pretty significant. Let's take a look at the torque gains that we had down here, because they're pretty significant also. It's a pretty cool phenomenon we'll see on any dyno run. If they're legit, they will always cross at 5250 and the numbers will be the same. So we have the same horsepower and torque gains down here, just over 5,000 RPMs where we ride the most. And we're looking at 7 horsepower, 7 foot-pounds of torque. Definitely noticeable. Definitely you can feel it when you ride. The smooth throttle response and that great response from Power Mode 1 just really makes this setup really fun to ride. I did promise we'd take a look at Arrow compared to the Akrapovic, so let's take a look at that. And here they are. As you can see, the red is the Arrow full exhaust mapped out. The blue is the Akrapovic full exhaust mapped out. And other than right down here at the bottom, the Arrow has an advantage everywhere. So it's more than just that curly Q doing its job, and it's just a great all-around system that really performed well. So head on over to Vcyclenut.com for your very best in flashing needs and performance parts. Please remember to subscribe and the like button for more motorcycle-related content. Keep the development going on my MT07 and the other bikes in the stable that I have at this moment, which is the R9 and the 750 Hornet. And just continue to work through stuff like I do. So thanks, guys and ladies. Keep that rubber side down and enjoy yourselves.